Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the West Lindsey series. This is one of the 9 districts of Lincolnshire and one of the county's most rural. It has 128 civil parishes. Let's see which one this episode's all about. So have you ever found yourself in a situation where you drive past something, you don't give it a second thought as to what it used to be? This here will certainly fit that bill. I imagine quite a few people around here have driven past this gate before and haven't got a clue what used to be behind it. Well, thanks to a little bit of research before I came here today, I know what used to be behind that, and that's where we're going to start the parish of Normanby by Spital. The West Lindsey series is sponsored by Gainsborough Cycles 01427 617 752. For all your cycling needs, this is your one-stop shop, located at 20 Normanby Road or online at gainsboroughcycles.com. There's a link in the description. Gainsborough Cycles, ask for Trevor Halstead. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. So today we begin at this rusty old gate, which to the untrained eye doesn't look like much of note. You'd be wrong though. Normanby Youth Club currently use this, but it's got a wartime past. During World War II, a wireless station was in operation along Normanby Cliff Road, which was connected to RAF Scampton, and it was used to transmit messages to Bomber Squadrons over Germany. In later years, this role diminished and the station closed. The buildings have now been demolished and the site is still fenced off. It formed part of RAF Normanby. The site was used as a signals unit after World War II ended. In the 1950s, stations like RAF Normanby were used to stay in constant communication with airborne RAF units in case the Cold War turned hot. War history is something the village is sort of famed for. As we walk around, we'll come across a pub called the Bottle and Glass, which was a frequent rest stop for local airmen. Senior residents of the village remember the Dambusters raid, hearing Lancaster bombers in the skies above. Of course, there's much more to Normanby than just war history though. Normanby still retains that old worldly rural charm we've come to expect in West Lindsey. As well as the Bottle and Glass pub, it used to have another called the Cross Keys. It's this house now. The name Normanby is from both Old English and Old Scandinavian. It originated as Northmanby, meaning Northman's village. In the Domesday Book, the village is given as Normaneby. The by Spital part is a reference to the village of Spital in the Street, which is to the northwest, lying within the parish of Bishop Norton. How that got its name is a whole other story. Leaving Front Street behind for a moment, this road is called Private Lane, and we have an old chapel. This belonged to the Free Methodists and it was built sometime before 1900. Our route turns back here and heads south towards a neighbouring village called Owmby by Spital, which can be reached quite easily on foot. The two villages are virtually conjoined twins. So don't be deceived by the name of this street. It is Private Lane, but it is as public as all the others, so you are allowed to walk down it. Anyway, next stop is the church, which is right on the corner. Let's have a look at this next. Entering St Peter's Churchyard, we've got a war memorial right on the corner overlooking the bend. This is a memorial for both Normanby and Owmby and lists names from both World Wars. The church dates from the 12th century and it's Grade 1 listed. Despite being located in the larger of the two by Spital villages, this one is redundant whilst Owmby's is still active. It is still open though, seemingly on a regular enough basis, so I ventured inside to have a look. It's yet another church that's maintained by the Church's Conservation Trust. It was extensively renovated in 1890 and has capacity to seat 100 people. There's a ring of 3 bells, but they no longer chime. The oldest was cast in about 1500 in a Nottingham foundry. The tower arch dates from about 1200 and it has a semicircular head. Most fittings and furniture date from the 19th century, including a cast iron tortoise stove, originally from Halstead in Essex. On the west wall of the nave is a painted benefactor's board dated 1767, and the font seen here is from the late 12th century and it stands on a 19th century base. So apart from Private Lane and Front Street and a few other bits and bobs that come off them and this road here, this is pretty much the one main road through Normanby by Spital. It leads to Owmby by Spital, which is almost a contiguous settlement. It's a 20 limit as well, that's always good to see. There's a school down here and there's also a shop too which doubles as the post office, and then we've also got the Bottle and Glass, which is the public house. The village facilities are all clustered in this little area, and these are all used by both Normanby and Owmby residents, as Owmby has no amenities of its own. As well as these, there's a school too. It's hiding behind these trees in front of us. A school board was formed in 1876 to cover both Normanby and Owmby. The resulting board school was built in 1878 to hold up to 130 children. The modern day school has received some positive Ofsted inspections, most notably a Grade 1 outstanding rating in 2006. The school hall holds activities such as a youth club and an art club. Normanby isn't the first place you perhaps think of when you want to book a holiday, but the old posting house B&B, the house seen on the left here, will cater for you if you come here. You'll notice the locals will likely pronounce this village's name differently. Given its etymology, Normanby is theoretically the correct way, but this is Lincolnshire. We're not a simple bunch. Locals call this Norumby, effectively reversing the A and the M in the name. It even has variations, which you may hear out here too, like Norumby and Normanby. So there's literally a couple more paces and you're in Owmby by Spital. There's the village sign, just there. Don't know whether you can see it. So I was tempted to do this one as sort of a joint one where I walk from Normanby into Owmby and then walk back again. The only problem with that is it messes up the Strava map, so I will begin Owmby's episode literally just there. It's the easiest thing to do, so it makes sense on the map at the end. And I've spotted a parish notice board over the way at Manor Cliff. That's my next stop. The parish notice board can be found on the end of Manor Cliff. Despite Owmby being so close, the two by Spital villages don't share the same parish council. Here's the boundary between the two, clearly marked by this sign for Owmby. At this point, I wandered briefly into Owmby so that I could catch a couple of things which made sense at this end. The first of these is a commemorative stone which was erected here in 2012 for the Golden Jubilee of our current Queen. As you can see, it's a joint effort between both villages. And here we have Normanby's entrance to the community park, shared between both villages as well, although technically this is within Owmby. The park is a recent addition. It provides what was a much needed recreational facility for both villages. It's continually being developed by a group of dedicated volunteers who raise money through organising events. It sits on the southern boundary of Normanby, which is defined by Highgate Lane. I walked up this for a short distance. If you follow this, you'll eventually reach the village of Toft next Newton. So now we're on Highgate Lane, which is like the southern, almost the southern boundary of Normanby by Spital. It runs off basically into the countryside, so there's not really much point walking up there. So that means we need to go back. On the walk back, I just added a few extra shots from the other direction. Fun fact, this is the second time the dog on the right in this shot has featured in a video, the first being in Kirsten and Lindsey. Normanby Parish was in the East Division of the ancient Aslaco Wapentake, and that's a first for the series. It's the first time that that's been mentioned, although Caenby also fell within it. This is a community that came together for the Platinum Jubilee, it seems. On this lamppost, there's a sign advertising the Jubilee Jamboree, which sounds like it was a lot of fun. And that pretty much sums up Normanby by Spital. It's a community which was bonded during the war, remains close-knit now, and shares everything with its closest neighbour. Okay, so we're back at the corner where the church is. I ought to mention as well, this is quite a tight corner. I've got to drive around this in a minute so I can do Owmby by Spital. There's a tractor coming. This will probably show you how tight this bend is. Assuming, oh no, he's coming this way. Oh well, never mind. But yeah, that is quite a sharp bend. And that's it. That's pretty much Normanby by Spital. There's not really much more I can show you. That's the problem with these linear villages. The ones which are just like on one street, there's not really any helpful footpaths to get me to other places in the village so I can show you some more, really. So it's a bit disappointing, but yeah, it's a nice place, this, isn't it? It really is, and it looks gorgeous in the sunshine. I ummed and ahed whether or not this one was going to get a picture bit, and I think it is going to get one. So here that comes right now. And that, as they say, is that. Time for me to move on to Owmby, and you've seen already where my start point is going to be for that episode. That's coming your way next week. But for now, this has been the Parish of Normanby by Spital, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.